Hey everybody, I'm Chad. Thanks for coming back to Record Wargaming. Today I'm matching myself and Steven. Steven brought his Sylvaneth, and I'm running this Hoplite Gravelords. But before we get into this, if you'd like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, join the Horde, I'd appreciate that. And take a good look at Steven's army when it's on the table. It's a beautifully painted army. Stick around to the end. We have a nice sit and chat, and go over the game, talk a little more in depth about our armies. And now, let's get into the show, folks. Here we go. Yeah, it's official. Dice spot, dice floor. Alright, so I will let's see if you have a lot of things, but I want to see if I can run out the clock. I'm going to actually drop first then.
You have to start first. Whoever won is the attacker and must deploy first.
Okay, so, well, good news then. Yeah, because I'm going to deploy first. So, right on.
Alright, so the battle plan is power struggle. Two stubborn warlords have created a stalemate at the borders of Thondia, both refusing to fall back to resupply. Now they must commit everything they have to secure new ground. The armies, each player picks an army and then they roll off. The winner chooses which player is the attacker and which is a defender. So you do get to choose who's attacker and who's defender.
Oh, okay, cool.
The defender sets up the battlefield, so you'd set up the objectives on the map and then you would take turns putting down terrain as recommended in pitched battles. We're already playing a fixed terrain deployment. Deployment, the attacker picks which territory is their territory, the other territory is the defender. The players then use alternating deployment, starting with the attacker. The player must set up their armies wholly within their territory. Deployment is in the first quarter of the board, long ways. So it's up to the 12-inch mark, and it's a long ways deployment. In this battle, some victory points are only scored for objectives you've controlled once you've controlled that objective for 2 of your turns consecutively. These turns can carry over into the next battle round. Each player scores victory points at the end of each of their turns as follows. Score 1 VP if you have controlled at least one objective for 2 of your turns consecutively. Score 1 VP if you control 2 or more objectives for 2 of your turns consecutively. Score 1 VP if you control more objectives than your opponent. And score 2 VPs if you completed your battle tactic that you picked this turn. Grand strategy. Each player scores 3 VPs at the end of the battle if they complete their grand strategy. Battle length is 5 rounds. Player with the most victory points at the end of the battle wins a major victory. If you're tied on victory points at the end, then the player with the most completed battle tactics wins the major victory. If you both complete the same number of battle tactics, then if the player has completed the grand strategy and the other one hasn't, it's a major victory, otherwise it's a minor victory. Hey, so I'm an original Sylvaneth player. I'm not a bandwagoner before anybody says anything. I was playing Dirty before it was cool. But this is probably like my 3rd game with Sylvaneth in AOS 3.0, so I'm not really sure how they do on the table yet, but this is the list that we're going with today. So it's a 2-battalion list. I'm going with a Vanguard and a Warlord formation. Main reasons being I want an additional artifact, and I like some of the extra abilities that we have with the core battalions that we have that I think is more useful than a unified deployment. Army deployment, I have a for battle line 5 Tree Revenants, 10 Dryads. I have another 10 Dryads that are part of the battle line. We have Drycha, we have a Warsong Revenant, a Branch Witch, a Branch Wraith, we have Durthu, a Tree Lord Ancient. It's a 3-pack of Kurnoth Hunters with swords. The Masquerade and the Scythe guys, I haven't finished painting my swords yet. The other 10-pack of Dryads, and that's the 2 battalions.
And how many points total?
Total points, so I have 2 endless spells. I have the Burning Head and I have the Spite Swarm Hive. So this is the faction specific Spite Swarm Hive and then just the general Burning Head, and I am 1980 points.
And then you said you picked a spell too, right? For somebody? And then your grand strategy is?
So my grand strategy is the keeping a wizard alive, because I have 4 wizards, so that's got the highest probability of success, is keeping a wizard alive. But it's the one that says keep a wizard alive, and I have 4 wizards, so I'm feeling confident that that's achievable, even with Sylvaneth. And then for spells for my casters, Drycha has the spell Tree Song. We have the Tree Lord Ancient has Regrowth. The Branch Wraith has Throne of Vines. The Warsong Revenant knows all of the lore of the deep, all of my spell lore. The Branch Witch has Verdurous Harmony. Verdurous Harmony can regrow things back inside of a unit. Regrowth can put wounds back on models.
Okay. Then I see you already put down your terrain piece or starter.
And then my starting terrain piece here, I put down a 2-pack of trees in my territory. And then my chosen grove for this army is Winterleaf. And the main parts of Winterleaf is whenever I get an unmodified hit roll of a 6, it counts as 2 hits. And once per game, I can choose 1 unit after its attack to pile in an attack a second time. So that's the Winterleaf's strengths.
Alright, this is Chad. I'm back with the Soul Blight. In the corner there, I have Prince Vordry. I have 20 zombies in front of him. Then I have 3 Fellbats. And then I have Manfred back there. I know that that's not Manfred, but that's Manfred for this game. And then I have Gorslav, a unit of 40 zombies. Then that is the Coven Throne. Then I got 3 more bats. Another unit of 20 zombies here. And then I have 10 of the dire wolves. And I already dropped down my grave sites. I placed those towards the beginning of the game here when I started setting up. And then for my grand strategy, I'm gonna go with Hold the Line. It's on page 14. It's basically he's got to kill all of my battle line, which would be all of those pretty zombies you see sitting over there. So he's got to get through all of those. And this is 1,965 points. For my spells on Prince Vordry, I gave him Vile Transference, and Manfred has the Orb. Both of those are on page 84. So the end of the Soulblight turn, sort of uneventful, but I did manage to scoot up and capture the 2 objectives on my side, and then the one in the dead center. I flew up with the bats, got underneath there. We're playing this in a cylinder, so it goes basically all the way down to the ground there. So I got out with those 2 units of bats. And then I also did get my, what is it called?
Your battle tactic. So you picked Ferocious Advance and you ran with 3 units and they ended within 3 inches of each other. So you scored 2 victory points for that battle tactic this turn.
Yeah, what Steven said. I did that. That was pretty cool. And then I also did manage to get a couple spells off too. That basically just made him a tank. But I don't think that's going to matter because I just cast him just in case he did some shenanigans bringing things in behind me. But then I found out that it has to be within a certain amount of range of the casters, and they're all back here. So I guess I don't have to worry about them popping trees in behind me, at least for this turn. So that is the end of my turn. So I get 1 for each of the objectives, correct?
No, you have to control it for 2 consecutive turns before we start doing it. So this battle plan, the power one, means you have to have control for 2 turns.
Seeing if I would have listened to you when you read it at the beginning instead of zoning out, I would have caught that. So for this one anyway, I just get the 2 points. And now we're going to go on to the trees, turn 1.
We got some spells off. I managed to summon the 1 Wildwood over there that Dryche took advantage of in the movement phase to move over. I picked as my battle tactic Monstrous Takeover, which says pick a monster from a starting army on the battlefield. Complete this battle tactic if that monster is contesting an objective marker that you control at the end of this turn, and the objective marker is not contested by an enemy monster. I chose my Tree Lord Ancient to contest this objective marker here. So I scored my battle trait. We managed to get Durthu in with a long charge because I cast the endless spell, the Spike Swarm Hive, which added 3 to his move and charge rolls, and he just rolled it after burning a command point because I failed to charge the first time and then got in on the second to get into the Fellbats. And I piled into the zombie horde, and I was feeling all kinds of froggy, so I rolled up my dice and I managed to roll 2 6s to hit and another hit, and hits are 2 wounds in the Winterleaf formation, so that was giving me 5 big swings, and then absolutely whiffed the wound rolls. I needed to wound on 3 and I rolled 2 2 1 1 and I rolled 1 wound, which did 6 to the zombie horde. I then popped the Winterleaf artifact from my general, which lets me pick one unit wholly within 18 inches to pile in an attack for a second time. So I took the opportunity to swing in and rolled a couple more hits. This time we managed to dish out 12 wounds, and we made some zombie casualties, but not as many as I was hoping. So my hope was to clear the zombies here so that I could more effectively contest the central objective, and there's still quite a lot of zombies left at the end of the turn. So this is going to be the hard corner for us to fight over.
And I did end up using a command point so they could pass Battle Shock, so they're still around.
Because he did take, what, 17 in total? He saved a few, and then they dished out one mortal wound in return, attacking Durthu. So.
Yep. Then I lost one out of this unit over here. So with Bravery 10, no Battle Shock.
And then his shooting attack, the Verdant Blast, did nothing, which was unfortunate because I missed spectacularly with all 3 shots.
Yep. And you did end up getting some guys over here too.
Dreicher did do her Spite Swarm colony of Flutterflies because she was enraged this time, so I got to roll the 20 dice and we picked off, what, maybe 5? I think we got 5 of them.
Yep, and then I lost more to Battle Shock. So.
Yeah, 3 died to the Battle Shock roll, which was unfortunate.
They're dead-er anyway.
And that was it. Otherwise, everything just kind of moved up. I moved over to these 2 objectives here. Did not move the Tree Revenants. Moved up the Kurnoth Hunters. Did not move these 2 characters here. Did move up the Warsong Revenant just to be a bit more central. And that's it.
Alright, now we're going to roll for turn. Thinking I need this one or this is going to go south really quick.
It's an important roll. It's always an important roll. Priority now. Let's do it.
Rolling for turn.
Big roll. 6.
Ah.
I'm taking it, Chad.
You sure?
I'm taking it. I know.
Alright, here we go. Sylvaneth, turn 2.
Quite a bit of activity go off this time. Not much in the spellcasting phase. Didn't manage to get off a Mystic Shield. I did manage to summon a 10-pack of Dryads back here.
It's those guys right there, right?
It's these ones that are in this woods here.
Oh, okay.
So we did, it's the first time I've ever successfully summoned Dryads. That's only because I had Throne of Vines up with a +2, otherwise I always fail that spell. That was the casting. Shooting, we did a little bit of damage on the dogs. I think we killed 2 dogs with Dreicher's Furies. The Verdant Blast did actually do a little bit of damage on the zombies, and then we did manage to put something into the bats with Verdant Blast from the Tree Lord Ancient. So shooting actually hit this time for once, which is unusual. Charges, we managed to charge in the Kurnoth Hunters into the pack of Felbats here that was in this combat with Durthu and the zombies. Dreicher managed to make her charge into the dogs. In the combat phase, I think Dreicher killed 3 dogs. She got 6 wounds on him in total because 2 had already died to shoot him. In this phase here, we killed the Felbats with the Great Swords, and Durthu finished off the zombies to almost to a zombie, and then he battle shocked off because he did a roar at the beginning of the combat to make sure that that unit couldn't receive any commands this time to leave 1 zombie back on there. So now those 2 are both freed up, and we did manage to turn over the center objective because I have more models within 6 now. In terms of scoring, my battle tactic this time was to try and kill a battle line unit, and I picked the dogs. I'd been hoping that the shooting and then Dreicher coming in would have been enough to kill the dogs, but it didn't, so I didn't get my battle tactic this time. But I did score a point for holding 1 objective for 2 turns, a point for holding 2 or more objective for 2 turns, and then a point for having more objectives under control than my opponent because I turned over the center objective this time. So I scored 3 victory points, and Chad's still on 2 with everything to play for in this turn.
So here we go. My turn, 2.
Absolutely.
Alright, so at the end of my round, it was a pretty nasty looking round here. I just shuffled these guys up a little bit. That combat here, we decided to how do I say that and have it make any sense?
We skipped it because Chad turned over the central objective and completed his battle tactic, which netted him 5 points and puts him on 7-5 at the end of turn 2, regardless of what happens over here. And we have to call it, unfortunately, because we can't play out the whole game because it's kind of late and we were both not playing as fast as we could because we're both returning players really to 3.0. But we did enough to calculate out how it would have ended at the end of turn 2. With Durthu going down and still having the 2 primary monsters on Chad's Soul Blight, it's unlikely that I could have come back in turns 3, 4 or 5, so we would have maintained that victory point advantage. So now is a good point to just talk it through and call it and award the win to the Soul Blight. So major victory to the Soul Blight on VPs, and it was clean. But Durthu almost held out against everything.
Yeah, that was down to 1 point, or 1 wound, basically.
Finest hour with all-out defense when he's a 3-up base save already, and he pushed Manfred to strike last in the combat with his Thunderstomp, which was good. And then he did some wounds on Manfred. Like, it was pretty close.
Yeah, he took him all the way down to 3.
Yeah, Manfred could have gone down with the big swings because I was hitting and wounding on 2s. Because we called a Titanic duel between the 2 of them, so we were both hitting and wounding. We were both wounding 1 extra, so that was pretty good. And with the finest hour, I was hitting on 1, so I was hitting on 2s and 2s.
Yeah. Plus, I got my spells off too. So one had the command ability, the other one had the spell on them. So both of them were +1 to hit, +1 to wound for that as well.
I used the Gur monster heroic ability to fight at my top profile because he was already sat on 6 wounds, but I got to swing with the full 3 and do the full 6 damage per swing. So when Manfred was staring down 12 wounds at the end of that little exchange, it was good. In terms of how this game played out and how I would have played it differently if I wasn't just going into this and just playing and getting through the mechanics of the game.
Well, hang on. Let's do just a quick end summary. We'll go over here real quick.
Absolutely.
So over here, he ended up killing the wolves. I did manage to deal a wound on her, but it wasn't enough to do anything.
She was up to 6 wounds on her profile by the end of it. So she was chipped away. The dogs actually did put more wounds on her than I expected, which was interesting.
But I'm still holding the objective here. So now we're going to roll for turn and see what happens there. And whoever wins the roll, then we're going to probably end up calling it if I end up taking it, because it's going to be pretty hard uphill battle for him. If he ends up getting it, then we're going to play it out. So we'll see what happens here with the roll. So I wind up with it.
There we go.
Right on. So I'm going to end up taking it. And I think with that, we're going to end up calling it right there, because I don't see any way of you getting back. Do you agree?
I wouldn't be able to turn over the objectives now that Durthu's gone down, and you would still have your combat monsters. So unfortunately, I couldn't fight the mid-center objective, and it's solidly yours. And the back 2, you're going to be able to hold forever, because all I've really got to throw now is Dryads and a Tree Lord Ancient, and that's not enough to shift zombies that just keep coming back.
Yeah. Well, and plus because of that, I'm going to end up getting an extra victory point because my battle line are still alive too.
Absolutely.
So that'll make a difference. So we're going to do an endgame summary here. Both of us haven't really played that much 3.0. I think this is like my 3rd or 4th game. And there's definitely way more layers to this than there has been in the past, for sure. So it's just a lot more stuff to remember, even though I have the cheat sheets and stuff. And I think I'm going to have to create another cheat sheet in general for each army, specifically. Because otherwise I'm going to have a pretty tough time. Because there's so many things to remember.
Oh, to be fluid, I mean, you got every phase you got to think about. I'm going to call a relocate action when somebody does a move towards you. Do you want to reposition? Do you want to call a heroic defense? You're going to do an all-out attack at the beginning. There's a lot to think about and plan with the command points now that we didn't have before in 2.0.
Oh, for sure.
And then just keeping track of scoring the objectives for the scenario. So in this particular scenario, you only score the objectives points after you've held them for or more consecutive turns, which is different than a lot of the other ones where you can just instant turn over something and score the points and then get right back into the game. This one's much harder. Like, if you don't have an objective before turn 4, you're not going to score it if it wasn't yours. So it's much harder to come back on this particular one. And there's 5 objectives, so there's 2 in each territory and the one in the middle. So you're almost always going to end up with a scrum in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, and we totally did. I mean, basically, like I said, half my army sitting in the middle there.
Exactly.
On that objective now. And it took all of that to take him down. I mean, that guy was... So he's buffed super nasty. And
Durthu, when he's rocking all-out defense and finest hour, is absolutely difficult to pull down because he's almost always going to be a 2-up against most light things. But even things coming in with Ren 3, he's still a 3-up. So 3-up, and then he has the artifact on him to give him a 5-up ward save. He's quite durable. For damage outputs, he really still needs to be next to woods because he gets 2 extra attacks when he's within a certain range of woods. Couldn't do it this time because of the way that the terrain was on the table, but normally if the centre was more open, then I would have had a tree closer to it, and then suddenly his output goes from 3 attacks to 5 attacks.
Right.
If he's fighting on his top profile and he's getting the wounds through now, it's 18, 20 odd extra wounds, 6 wounds for every hit and wound that gets through. So he definitely is a beach stick, and I can see why people are on double Durthu lists. But
yeah.
I like the variety of having Drycha in the list, and I do like what she does. She does something different. She has shooting attacks. She can actually reach out and do some things with those colony of flutterflies.
Oh, yeah. No, and you got me with some of the... I mean, each round, yeah, you got me.
Well, it's 20 dice, right? So you're rolling that, and that's nothing in terms of shooting. So she definitely improved. I like her. I would keep her rather than having another Tree Lord or Durthu, because I think it's just a different aspect on the table, and I like the model as well. And I will pick armies a lot more based on their aesthetics rather than just the pure raw output. But I like Sylvaneth in the current AOS 3.0. The game itself has just got a lot of complexity, and I need to get better at playing through it fluidly, because right now I don't stand any chance of playing 5 turns. It just takes too long mechanically to play at the moment for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and even with this game, I mean, once we were set up and going, I mean, we buzzed through the rounds.
Yeah,
through our turns. I mean, we buzzed through them pretty quick, but still, it took a little bit.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm gonna definitely need to come up with a cheat sheet. Since I don't actually personally do tournaments, trying to get a game into 2.5 hours is going to be pretty tough. But I think I'm going to try to start getting the time clock a little bit and see if I can get it down and kind of just rush myself through. Especially with the Horde armies. I try to speed it up because that's why I have the movement trays for those big blocks. I mean, I can't imagine somebody trying to move 20 and 40 zombies and have it make any sense. So
right.
All my stuff's on movement trays, so I'm able to just slide up large blocks of them pretty quick. But for this army, I can't imagine trying to move all those guys individually.
No.
That would be kind of crazy.
No, and even, even with Dryads struggling just blocks of 10, because now you've got the double coherency, you have to think about how you keep that block together as well, because you're not as free to just move stuff around. So it's just, everything slowed down just a little bit with 3.0, but it did add some extra dimension to what you can do in the game.
No, for
I
sure.
just need to get to that point where I have a list of things that I do each time that I go through mentally much quicker on the turn, like picking my heroic command abilities, picking the monstrous rampages, picking what my battle tactics going to be, instead of just sitting at the beginning of the turn staring at them. It's like knowing what my top 3 are.
Yeah.
I'm getting an idea now of what 3, 4, 5, what turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 battle tactics might look like, given that most of the time you don't get to turn 5, so really you only need to worry about 4 of them, maybe 3. And then picking a grand strategy.
That cheat sheet helped from the White Dwarf, so yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, I gotta look at it again. I don't think it has the grand strategies and that other stuff on it, so really it's not a total cheat sheet, but it definitely has some of the things on there that I need to remember.
But we didn't even play with the scenery rules on top of what we were doing, because starting to add arcane and damned and things like that, you'd have to play very regular and be really on top of the game, and
or just have like 6 hours.
I have 6 hours, but to get through any kind of a game in any length of time like that, it's going to take a lot of effort and just staying on top of it. And
well, and I preset the tables too.
Right.
So, I mean, even that, it takes me like an hour to set the table up even before focus them over and play. So that takes a little bit of time. But and you said you tried out a new strategy with.
So it's all new, right? For 3.0 for Sylvaneth, for me, I've played so few games, and it's all fairly new what we're doing today. Like before, Dirty was good, but it was always Hunter spam before, or an Al route with extra casting, but they took away those battalions. So it's like recovering what they used to have, but with other tools. The downside is the trees do help, but you have to have the trees, and then having the trees means carrying around a box full of trees as well as your army all the time.
Right.
So it's already a penalty. I'm already lugging around 2 things instead of 1, which is a bit of a shame.
Sure.
Whereas with my Flesh Eater Courts, I just have to have the Carnal Throne and I'm good, and that just fits in my army box already. It's not like a whole box of trees. So that sucks mechanically, but it gives some variety on the table in the ability to move around the table, and then having some pieces of scenery on the table that they look quite nice anyway. The Sylvaneth Wildwoods, so I can't complain about how they look, but I'm going to complain about having a box of trees just to make my army work.
Sure. Yeah, your army's beautiful. I love that, the paint scheme, and definitely the bases look awesome. So for sure. But what I was saying is, you said you tried out a new strategy specifically with Dirthu that you normally have not done.
Right.
So
with Dirthu, I had to push him forward. If you look at the scenery on the table, there's no ability to support him with woods, unfortunately. And as I say, when he's within a certain range of wood, he gets extra attacks. I was forced to send him in to a position that wasn't optimal because he wasn't swinging as fully. Because if he'd have added 2 extra swings in that round when I did the double attacks, that zombie horde would have been gone completely, and I wouldn't have been pinned in the middle for that extra round. I would have been moving aggressively towards, say, the other zombie pack on the right hand side, and then I would have moved up and captured the objective here with the Dryads that I summoned the turn before. I would have started to put the bodies over here and push back, and then make the grave sites not be as useful, pushing you back 9 inches from all of the grave sites.
Right.
So eventually your army would have been on the back edge of the table had I have broken through the middle. But I couldn't get the Tree Lord Ancient in with Dirthu. It didn't have the movement on it, and then the Hunters did get in the next round, but they just weren't. I deployed them back here. They weren't close enough to the middle, so that was a misdeployment on my behalf. If we were playing to full 5 turns, I probably wouldn't have pushed up as aggressively. I would have definitely had the woods further back, and then dared you to come to me. I would have been blobbing that middle thing and then made the terrain be your problem and not my problem. But I kind of wanted to go in and see what can he do, what can he take. Well, he can take a lot.
He can take a
and
lot.
he can do quite a lot if you get the rolls off it, and Winterleaf is really good.
Yeah, and for me, the thing that I screwed up was actually paying attention to the bubbles of my heroes. So like over there, I pushed the Dire Wolves outside at 12, so I didn't end up getting the extra save.
Oh, you didn't get the ward save, yeah.
Yeah, and because I also had pushed it outside of where the gravesite was too, so I wound up without the ward save over there. So that's actually why the Wolves, I think, folded as quick as they did.
Yeah.
And then over here, I did remember this game, and actually, which I had forgotten in the last game that I played, the different summoning. I had only remembered one of the summoning things, but actually this is like multi-layered summoning. Right. So I got pretty lucky there and ended up bringing that whole unit back and a bat back that he didn't really do anything besides just kind of fly at you, but I was still able to bring him back.
I mean, that 5-up pulling back that zombie pack was enough to get the mortal wounds through on Dirthu that finally pulled him down, because without them, he wouldn't have gone down.
Yeah.
Even to those 2 guys, not when he was, all-out defensive finest hour, he shrugged a bunch of the stuff off.
Yeah, which is gross too, because next turn he totally would have tanked Manfred. Yeah. So
yeah, Manfred would have been down. Vordry, I would have engaged Vordry with the Hunters and or the Tree Lord Ancient, but you took the middle, and that's what you needed to do.
Yeah, right on. All right, so cool. And hopefully, like you said, we'll be able to get more games in the future.
Yes, definitely.
So, maybe bring over your Flesh Eater Courts next time, and I'll play against those since I usually play them. It'd be kind of fun to play against them, because I don't know if I've ever played against them. It's definitely not in 3.0 anyway, and I don't even remember if I played any in 2.0 against them, because I usually am the one running them. So that would be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun.
So, all right, cool. Well, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, join the Horde, and we will see you in the next one.
And stick around to the end. Steven and I do a nice summary of the game and talk a little bit more in depth about our armies and things like that. And hey everybody, I'm Chad. Thanks for coming to record War. Hey everybody, I'm Chad. Thanks for coming to record Wargaming. Today we have. Hey everybody, I'm Chad. Thanks for coming to record Wargaming. Today we have actually myself and Steven. Steven brought his. Hey everybody, I'm Chad. Thanks for coming to record Wargaming. Today I matched between myself and Steven. Steven brought his Sylvaneth, and I have this old Black